Now we are on to really, really, really large groups, often called formal organizations. And a good example of that we have narrowed down and classified as a bureaucracy. So formal organizations are large secondary groups organized to achieve goals efficiently. And they can be like seriously large, like thousands and millions of people. And the types that we generally belong to would be utilitarian, with that material reward for members, which you could otherwise classify as paycheck, those type of things, where you belong to the formal organization, you work for them, they give you money. Normative voluntary organizations, some of them are church-based, but they don't have to be. They just kind of give you some norms. Think of Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, any kind of community, youth kind of group that you voluntarily join, and it helps you to form your morals and boundaries in terms of your life. Coercive groups are the total institutions. They're generally punishment or treatment centers that you cannot leave. But the classic formal organization is the bureaucracy. It is a rational model designed to perform complex tasks efficiently. And when we go in these next slides, we're going to go through these one by one. And remember that Max Weber's conceptualization of bureaucracy was written before he died in 1918 of the Spanish flu. So he's looking at early industrial revolution, rational models designed to perform complex tasks efficiently, and he's also looking at an ideal type. This is the best way it could possibly be. Sometimes you're going to find different things in bureaucracies. Modernity has changed some of these things, and I will point them out to you when that happens. So we will start out with specialization of duties on the next slide. Bureaucracies depend on specialization of duties. Most jobs that are bureaucracies have very intense flowcharts in terms of who is supposed to do what, and they expect you to stay within that box. They tell you think outside the box, but really a bureaucracy depends on you doing exactly what you are supposed to be doing when you occupy one of these nice little rectangles on the organizational flowchart. Bureaucracies also have a hierarchy of authority. Authority is the exercise of legitimate power and belongs to the position, not to the individual, but to the position in the structure, in the bureaucratic structure. So for Weber, it really did not matter what you did when you were not at work. All that mattered was what you did while you were in the building. Anything that you did outside of there, heavy drinking, kicking your dog, whatever it is that society might find morally reprehensive, it didn't matter as long as you were doing your job. That's how bureaucracies were supposed to work. Now that we all work from home in our pajama pants and such, I work from home, that kind of changes the authority and the hierarchy. Things I do can get me in trouble if I don't have a workspace, if I am doing things, searching odd things on work laptops or something like that. If I say anything negative on social media about my workplace, I can get fired. So they are policing your personal life now to an extent that was not seen when Weber was saying it's the position, the exercise of legitimate power within the organizational structures of the bureaucracies. Bureaucracies have rules and procedures. This is a simple ISO process flow. Where I work online, we have things that look very similar to this for curriculum development. There are standard operating procedures for everything. Breathing, they tell you how you're supposed to breathe when you're in the building pretty much. But just think of them as having all the rules and all the procedures so that theoretically you really don't have to think. You just kind of go back and do what they tell you to do. Ideally, in a bureaucracy, you will be hired for technical competence. I searched what does drunk nephew and wife and mistress look like, because if you could just put anybody in a job, what would that look like? But instead, these jobs are supposed to be statuses. They're open positions, right? It's a position, not an individual. And anybody who meets the qualifications for the position should be eligible to occupy that status. Bureaucracies can be incredibly impersonal. If something happens in your life and you work for a bureaucracy, good luck with that. It says, sorry for your loss, but at least you get 3 days of bereavement leave. One place I worked for, when somebody in my family passed away, did not even want to give me that because it was Unit 1. So something that I would theoretically have to do in Unit 1 was the same time as one of the services for a family member. And when I said I wasn't going to do it, they kind of took that pretty hard. It's like, no, well, there's human resources and rules, right? So they can be incredibly impersonal. You are a cog in the machine. You are an occupier of a status within a bureaucracy. Not only is all the procedures written down, but everything, all communication is formal and written. Meeting notes, memos back and forth to each other, emails back and forth to each other. Nothing happens unless it's typed down in a bureaucracy. In Weber's time, statuses were considered full-time jobs. You joined the bureaucracy, you worked full-time, you worked until your retirement, and then you got your pension. That has changed, right? So there's another example of change from the beginning of Max Weber. So statuses are not always full-time jobs now. The new post-industrial gig economy has us occupying multiple, possibly money-making positions within multiple bureaucracies, or even not even money-making positions. We can be within the bureaucracies as students, within the bureaucracies as patients. We have multiple ways of interacting with bureaucracies besides full-time jobs. And we do not own our positions. I cannot bequeath this job of sociology professor onto my son. First of all, he doesn't want it. Second of all, you can't, right? If you cannot do that job, the bureaucracy will find somebody else to do that job. You don't get to pick your successors. And also remember that from the early parts of this class that Max Weber called the bureaucracies an iron cage of our own making. Once we have created these things, they are virtually impossible to destroy. So a few of the problems of bureaucracies, alienation, they have a tendency to dehumanize people. They can be really inefficient and ritualistic. You follow the rules for the sake of following the rules. Even if technology has changed, even if somebody finds a better process, they often are ritualistic, rule-based, where they don't change very quickly, even if it's something that's going to be helpful. And then goal displacement are the trained incapacities. It's more because we trained you to do it this way and everybody knows how to do it this way, we're going to keep doing it this way. Even if it's not efficient, we're still going to do it that way. Bureaucratic inertia, perpetuation of the organization. Again, you can't get rid of them very easily. They are that iron cage. And the oligarchy, the rule of the many by the few. That's how bureaucracies are run.